Yo guys, Theo here. Thank you for the responses to my videos about panic attacks yesterday. A few comments, but also some people reaching out to me through other channels like Instagram. So thank you for that. I'm really happy that you appreciate that, because even though I love the fitness and training stuff and the fasting and everything, it's not all that it's about for me. When I started the channel, I was not sure what it was going to be mostly about. But the spiritual stuff and the mental health stuff is a big component too. So I have I have like 16 minutes till my bus comes. I don't have a perfect plan here, but I figured I'm going to talk on the theme of forgiveness, and especially forgiving your parents, because this is what I've noticed is like the final piece to healing yourself. The biggest step is forgiving your parents, and most of the time it's your mother too. So where to begin? It's hard, you know, because both like what do I want to get across here, but also like how can I talk about my personal life without being too personal, you know, not for my sake, but for the other people's sake, because I am an open book. I'll tell you anything. But if I try to keep it general and clarify here at the beginning that I'm just going to focus on the bad stuff now, because that's the theme of the video. But you know, I love my parents, we're on good terms. My upbringing just wasn't all that good, but I've forgiven them for that. And so, okay, where to begin? Okay, let's do it this way. So when I was a kid, I believe all kids are born knowing the truth and what's right. They have the intuition for it. But when you get traumatized by other people denying your reality and trying to control you, you learn to not listen to your own voiceless voice, the godly voice, and you learn to identify with the ego voice. And the ego voice is based a lot on impressions you get from outside, the stories. You know, when you think you're supposed to be in a certain way, and yeah, because you've heard other people claim that you should be and tell you to be, or you should do this to be this, oh, don't do that to be that. So I identified with my father so much growing up. I just loved my dad. He could do nothing wrong. He was just a perfect person. He was so warm and so just a leader to me. I really wanted to be like him. And you know, for instance, he didn't start drinking until kind of late, and so that was something I knew, that I don't want to start drinking. Yeah, I don't want to drink. I want to be like my dad, you know. But then what happened was, so okay, I had a pretty broken home, not like financially, but my brother is severely autistic, and so there was a lot of fighting going on, like physical violence in the home. And you know, everyone is like, oh yeah, siblings always fight, but this was a different thing, you know. It was every day, full on trying to kill each other, basically, just that we're too small and can't do it. And also because he's so different, you know, over very irrational things. Like one thing I was not allowed to do was lock the bathroom door. And he can't today explain why he felt that way. It just made something flip inside of him. So every time I knew I accidentally locked the bathroom door, I knew, okay, now I'm screwed. Now we're gonna beat the hell out of each other. So, yeah. And so during my teens, I started just noticing that I'm not so similar to my dad, after all. Like my mom, she's much more like me. She understands me a lot better. Yes, we are in the kind of same way. We worry about the same stuff, and we do analyze stuff in the same way. So maybe I am like my mother. And I remember I'm starting to get torn about this. I'm starting to get really depressed and just don't know who I am, feeling out of place. And people start drinking, you know, and stuff. And I want to hang out. I want to be cool, you know. I want to hang out with the cool people, but I don't want to drink. I still have this barrier, you know. And so, but my parents were extremely strict with me. They tried to control me so much, not tell me anything about what I should, you know, just be careful about this or anything. They were like, no, you're home at this time. And just spam calling me if I didn't show up the minute I was supposed to come home and stuff. And so I remember once where my mother accused me of wanting to go out and get drunk. And you know, this made me so furious that I'm one of the good guys. I'm not one of that hasn't stepped over that, you know, that barrier, that limit. I'm one of those who doesn't do it, and I was so angry about this. And then, you know, because this is what I've learned now in hindsight, this is why it's so hard. I want to tell it, my story from the beginning, but also put in these little nuggets of information. Like, basically my mother, all she did was so worried that I was gonna end up becoming like her, that by trying to control me in this way and not allowing me to make mistakes on my own and stuff, she projected all of her own trauma and insecurities onto me. And that's why this happened. I went from identifying with my dad to identifying with my mother. And so this is stuff I had no idea about at the time. But so when I started doing my healing journey, when I had started confronting the panic attacks, starting exercising more and stuff, I listened to a man here on YouTube. It's called Jesse Lee Peterson, conservative, black old fellow. Just love this man. I need to call into his show someday. But I hear him, it's both like a news political show, but also he just takes callers that want to talk about anything, and it could be people that really agree with him and his message, and also people that don't agree at all, or just that need help but can't see what he's saying. And so he kept always asking these guys about their mothers, and to me, watching the show, it was so obvious, like, how can these guys don't see what he's saying? Obviously it's coming from their mother. It's so obvious, it's so clear when he gets all this information out of them and stuff. And then finally, after like a month or two of watching this show, not every day, but often, I was like, wait a minute. Like, when I was a kid, I actually used to identify with my dad a lot. When did it happen that I started identifying with my mother? Why did that happen? And then I started realizing, yeah, my mother actually, I was really afraid of her when I was a kid. I remember her just yelling at me, screaming, just punishing me, telling me that I've done bad, you know. I was so horrified of her. And obviously, I was traumatized by my mother. She transferred the evil spirit that she had within her into me, you know. And so this was a huge pill for me to swallow. It's something, almost everyone, this happens to me in my life now too, that when I bring up that, have you forgiven your mother, a lot of people will be like, ooh, this is very tough for them to think about. So I started processing this, like, can it be true? Can it be true that all the time I wasn't predestined to be anxious, get panic attacks, get that kind of anxiety where you just want to turn everything off, just disappear, and feel so miserable so many times, be so nervous and worried about stuff? Can it be the case that I'm actually not just wired this way, and I got it from my mother? And so the more I kept listening to Jesse Lee Peterson and meditating on this and processing it, I realized that this is absolutely what happened. But I also started to realize a lot of other stuff. First, even though I had let go of a lot of anger, I started feeling angry, you know, like, wow, this wouldn't have had to happen to me. I could have just had a good upbringing if they didn't try to control me so much and didn't punish me only. And for instance, my mother, her motivation for me to train was not, you will get fit, you will look good, you will get confident, you will feel good, you have high energy. Her argument for me to exercise is, you're gonna be just like an old man when you're 20 if you don't, all that kind of stuff. So it's so obvious. I was traumatized by especially my mom. And then later my dad, what happens is, he was too weak to handle this situation with my mother and with my brother and then me, you know. And when because I was like him when I was a kid, but when my mother turned me away from him and I started becoming like her, he got resentful against me because he no longer could get me, you know. And he would do it in a completely different way than my mom. My mom was always overly nice, just blowing you up, just loving you for existence. Loving you, by the way, ego love. just, you know, expressing, because that makes her feel good about herself. Oh, I'm so nice to my son, telling him all this stuff. And then she just pulled it away all of a sudden when she was in a bad mood and just scolded me, you know, just yelled at me. And my dad, I found it worse at the time, that he would just go quiet and not say anything basically for weeks. And I didn't know what I did wrong because he wouldn't tell me and talk about it. So all of this, first realizing all of it, it made me very angry. But then I started also thinking, like, did my parents get me? Did they have a son because they hated him and wanted to set him on a bad path in life? No, of course not. And of course I know my parents love me and want the best for me. They just couldn't deliver it. And do you know why? Because exactly this thing happened to them when they were small. They were traumatized by their parents. They didn't resolve it. They end up doing exactly the same thing to their kids. Trauma is inherited, spiritual trauma is inherited between generations. And I can't really say why some of us managed to break out of it, but I have. I see this so clearly now, and it's so insane, you know. I don't want you to think that I have like live in an illusion about knowing too much stuff or anything, but when you yourself have, you know, resolved this, it's so easy to see on other people. Like many people I've talked to, they get shocked that I just know, like, yeah, so you didn't grow up with a dad, huh? Or like, oh, your mother was an alcoholic. I've just dropped stuff like that, and it's spot on, you know. So please, even if it's hard to grasp now in one video, for sure I will come back to this. You know, this when this channel reaches 1,000 subscribers and I can do live streams and stuff, this is the kind of stuff I imagine myself talking about on a live show where people can send chats and even super chats. If I could monetize this thing, that would just be great. Do my passion for a living, helping you guys, teaching you guys the things I've learned. That would be awesome. But also even maybe I could have call-in shows and help you talk about your problems about this. I would love to do it because I'm really, really good now at figuring out this stuff. I hope, I have to go to the bus now. There's probably more stuff I want to talk about this for sure, but I hope this was a good little like introduction to forgiveness and your parents, forgiving your parents. Like, you understand, this is the final part we can talk about. You understand that you have to forgive them, right? Like, have you been doing anything wrong in your life? Doing something you know that you shouldn't have done that to this person or whatever. Do you want to be forgiven for that? Or do you just want people to hate you when you make mistakes? That's right, you want to be forgiven, but in order to be forgiven, you have to forgive others first. If you forgive everyone who has wronged you, you know, God will forgive you, and you will be able to live an amazing life. This is what I am experiencing right now. And forgiveness, don't mistake it for weakness. It's completely the other way around. It's the most powerful thing there is. This is what I've noticed, and this is what it was like for me back in the day, that people, when someone had wronged me really bad, because many people have, I'm not going to say many, but other people than my mother have traumatized me. Sexual assault stuff from the gays I've been involved in too, you know. I can't tell you about that story another time, but no, sexual assault, nothing below here, but just homosexual men using power and trying to do stuff with me that was emotionally traumatizing, you could say. I can talk about it more in the future. But so all the people that wronged me, I used to feel like I need to hold on to this resentment, to this hate to this person. I wanted to be dead, you know. If they die, I'll be happy. I'll celebrate if they die, you know, that kind of feeling. And I felt like I was weak if I let go of that. But do you realize how much power you're giving this other person? If all they had to do was maybe do something that maybe took a minute or something to you, and you spend years holding on to this hate to them that just makes you miserable and, yeah, doesn't help you at all. Realizing this, that forgiveness is not saying that what happened was okay. It is just acknowledging that, yeah, just as me, this person carries their own trauma. They would not have done this way if they were able to act in another way. It was unfortunate that it happened. Of course, if we're going to do hypotheticals, it would have been better if it didn't happen. But it did happen. I forgive this person. You know, you can. always better if you can forgive the person face to face. It's not always possible, and then you just have to do within here. But if it's a possibility, you should always do that. I can say that really quick, that one homosexual person that wronged me pretty bad, I forgave him after holding on to the hate after years. And you know what? Because it's not a lot of the time like that, people aren't all evil. And this guy, do you know how happy he was that finally it was like a relief for him that I brought it up and just said that you did this, you made me feel this way, it was not okay, it was horrible for me, but I can see blah blah blah, I forgive you. Do you understand? This does not mean, if you forgive someone, it doesn't mean that you have to spend any more time with them and just be friends with them. It doesn't mean that you're saying what they did was okay. It just means that you are letting go. You're putting this behind you and moving on. So I think that's a good point to stop. I hope this was helpful. It might be a little all over the place because I am really passionate about this subject. I really want to talk about it more. This is the most important, this is like the most important thing ever. Forgiving your parents first and foremost, but also everyone else that has wronged you. Okay guys, please let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate it so much when you help me just understand if I'm on the right track, you know, to what you want to hear. And please give suggestions for other things to talk about. Please subscribe if you want to see more content about the whole mindfulness, spirituality, fitness, fasting and all that stuff. Please like the video to help me out. All right guys, peace.